Hey, this is Dr. Keith Smithson, Sports Vision Pros here in Washington National Spring Training. Very special guest today. We have a legendary Hall of Famer, all-star, all-around amazing baseball knowledge, wealth of knowledge. This gentleman's forgot more about baseball than I'll ever know. Mr. Bob Boone here with us today, who four-time all-star, World Series champ, 1980, I guess, with the Phillies, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about vision in baseball and sort of what vision testing used to be, what vision training used to be, and kind of what it is today. So, one of the things we were just talking about is kind of how vision was tested back in the day. We just got done doing our vision test today, but back in the day, what was a vision test like for you in baseball?
Well, we didn't have the machines, but they came out. The idea was to get to 20/20, and I did a lot of work with a doctor in California when I went there, and they were changing hard lenses, which were terrible. I couldn't wear them until I got to the park and put them in. But when we got the softer lenses, and I had a guy in California that really spent a lot of time where we shopped different lenses and to get perfect in it. And most days I was probably 20/15 with my lenses on during the ball game.
Sure.
And when it wasn't that, I could notice that, or if it was smoggy, then you could tell the difference. But it was easy to recognize how important your eyes were when you're trying to hit a baseball. Ted Williams used to talk about it all the time, and he was always credited with having the greatest eyesight of anybody that ever played. But there's no question when you get into baseball, it's all about what you're seeing.
The seeing and the clarity thing we talk about quite a bit, but there's a whole other aspect to vision, which is performance and performance enhancement. So outside of having the right glasses or contact lenses, which forms a good foundation, there was vision training, and there was vision training back when Bob played. We'll let him talk about it a little bit today. Obviously, we have strobe training glasses, we have virtual reality, we have all kinds of different technologies. But back in the day, what did vision for you, Bob?
Well, for me, it was very basic. I mean, I had an old turntable. I had marbles in a box and follow them. I had a lot of different things that I did daily. It would take me about an hour a day, and I had I had exercises of moving my eyes left and right without moving my head was a big thing I had to learn for the speed, and then moving in different quadrants with it as you just work out. The biggest thing I learned is that in doing the exercises, I could never tell, well, I'm hitting better now because it's the eyes, because of the exercise. I thought, no, shoot, when I'm taking batting practice, I'm tracking balls all the time. But what it really showed me is that the focus and staying focused had to do with the strength of my eyes. When I first started, I would look on a rotating board of letters and numbers, and when I first started, we'd run it at a 35 pace, and I'd get to about J and just stop and go, oh my gosh, I'm wearing out. And then I got it built up where I could go at 78, and I'd also look in a mirror so I'd see it go the other way. And I can look at fans in the air. I mean, one of my little things
Sure.
is I'll be in a room and looking at it, and I can actually stop it. I can grab one vein of it, and I can, instead of most people, you'll see it and just kind of, but I could actually stop it and carry it and follow it. And whether that, I started hitting better, so I attribute a lot of that to that. But it really had to do with the strength in my eye that it built up, and it also made me look at things without turning my head to get there, making my eyes move, and that quickened a lot of things up for me. So at the end, and I did this for 10 years, I was always afraid to stop. When I got out of baseball, I said, heck with it, I don't need to do that anymore. But
The golf ball doesn't move anywhere, right?
oh, not when I hit it. Well, I got to find it. I got to track it into the weeds. But it was definitely a big thing. It was one of the main things. I trained very hard for about 15 years, and that was a big part of me lasting so until I was 43. And the eye thing definitely helped me last those years when I got into being really old.
We talked a little bit about, some of the guys that you had a chance to hit against, some of the best pitchers of our generation. And we talked about the Nolan Ryans and the people that, threw the ball, incredible amounts of velocity with all kinds of movement and such on it. And we talked a little bit about head position and eye position and kind of learning ways to get to the ball quicker. But where does that all go? You mentioned the way it translates to the field. What is that?
If it was one thing, I could never say. I would talk to guys about taking up a regime. In those days, it was very primitive. Now you can get on a computer and do tons of things and charts where this light would come up and you hit that and then you hit that and how fast you react to it.
Sure.
But that's kind of what it was all about. It's how good can I focus? How can I get on it and focus quicker and then change over here and focus the same way as fast as I can. And I think that had a big property in helping me last so long. But to really say, yeah, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be able to see. I couldn't tell you, oh yeah, I'm seeing it much better.
Sure.
I just was. There were things that happened, putting both eyes on a level plane to get better depth perception, and that changed my stance because I wanted to stay relaxed, so I had to turn my body to get there rather than just my neck. So there's a lot of little things that happened to me that helped me, along with a real strenuous training regime that I did for about 15 years, that I feel helped me to last as long as I played. Last time I played, I was 43 years old, and that really doesn't happen much at catching. But I always felt those things really had a big thing to do with me extending my career. So yeah, I'll do it again.
And one of the things that you just mentioned there is catching, right? I mean, catching's such a massive part of our game, and obviously, people talk a lot about vision and vision training from a hitting perspective. But how important is it for a catcher? I mean, when we're receiving the ball, you are obviously an incredible defensive catcher, but tell me those kind of things and how this carries over to catching and how important vision is to a catcher.
Well, I'll tell you the thing where I can tell you, because I was a real good catcher, and I caught very smooth, and I was catching well into my old age, although my arm was dropping off a little bit. But the biggest thing for me was that focus, and the last time I ever caught, I was 60. I'm 73 now. I was 62, and we were working out some players at in Washington at the stadium, and our scout had put it together. The catcher that was supposed to be there for these young pitchers, he was caught in traffic, so the scout put on all gear, and he got back and started catching these prospects, and they all threw real hard, and he was just getting beat up. And I was there, one of the guys wearing street clothes, and I said, Smitty. So I went back. I said, give me your glove. Get out of here. I can catch these guys.
Protect you.
And like I said, I was 61 or 2, and I went in that day, and there were a lot of scouts around, and I really prided myself on the ability to catch and how pretty it looked, and how relaxed I was. And so when I got back there to catch these guys, I wasn't worried about catching them, but for all the scouts that are around, I wanted to say, well, for my ego, I got to show these guys how good I am, or how good I was, and how good I still am. And so I've been real smooth. But what I noticed at that age was the first time guys were throwing real hard, and I'm tracking the ball, and it's getting here, and normally I would just pick it. And it was getting about 2 feet away from me, and inside it was going, to get it. But I couldn't do that because I had all these scouts watching me, so it was like, no, be smooth and pretty. But it was probably the biggest difference that I had noticed in my whole lifetime. But like I say, I was 62 then.
Sure.
And so it scared me enough. That's the last time I ever caught. But it really had to do with how good am I tracking the ball. I had glasses. I had 20/20 perception, but there was something different with that speed. I was doing it fine, and I looked pretty, but I was scared. It scared me, and that's the last time I ever squatted behind the plate.
Last thing I'm going to give you today, because I know you're busy and I appreciate the time, but one thing we get a lot on Sports Vision Pros is parents and coaches and talking about their kids. And Bob had a baseball family. His kids were hugely successful in baseball. If you can tell us quickly about your sons and what they've done in the game, but growing up, they were youth baseball players as well. And you were obviously a pretty advanced coach as a dad. But what are the things you instilled in them that were important from a vision standpoint, and how that kind of carried over into their game? Maybe little things you did with them when they were young.
About ninth or 10th grade in high school, that's the first time I went in and said, I need correction. And I got contact lenses. At that time, I only had the hard lenses. It was very uncomfortable for me. So anything I played, basketball, football, or baseball, I wouldn't put those in until I had to.
Yeah, sure.
And luckily, all of my kids never had any eye problems at all. And none of them ever wore glasses, Aaron or Brett, my youngest son. And now I've got my grandson signed. And we were the first 3-generation family. I was the only one that needed glasses, and my grandson, who is Brett's son, he signed with the Nationals this year, so he's in the minor leagues. And when he was getting recruited by a bunch of different teams, they were coming in and doing eye test things. And I know the Cardinals told him, he said that Jake had the best eye test of anybody he'd ever done. I told Jake, I said, that's really important. You want to put that on your screen when they come to tell you how much they're going to pay you to play. I said, you got to tell them and show them how good your eyes are, because this game, and really all sports games, and we get away with different things, but the great players, the great players have great eyesight. And the great thing now is that you guys have the ability to correct that. There's no question it's a huge difference in our lives.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, Bob. This was awesome. Sure. I look forward to part 2 maybe down the road, but thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And let's get back to work and work on winning ourselves another ring. What do you think?
Well, that's the only reason I'm doing this. So I appreciate it, Keith.
Thanks, Bob. Take care.